but there's something factually wrong there that I go and reply the same thing to everyone.
Can you just tell us what happened?
No, I comment with my private account. So how come we cannot have real conversations anymore? This is your daily Ketchup. Okay, so today's episode is in collaboration with the National Youth Council. So I'm sure none of us are unfamiliar with the term getting cancelled, right? It's almost like we cannot talk about anything online without being like scared for our lives.
And yet...
And so today we're going to talk about how to have proper conversations. And Grace is here to help us with that. What's up?
Correct. So Grace here is from
co-founder of Friend Zone.
That's hi, I'm Grace. I'm from Friend Zone. Friend Zone is a company that creates events for people to get to know new people over conversation.
What made you start this company?
What made me start this company? So I lived on campus when I was in university. Yeah, like one of the halls. And then if you've ever lived on hall?
I never even go uni, man.
We didn't make it very
So I lived on campus in uni, and it was really just like living in a building with a bunch of people your age, which is really fun because there's a lot of activities, a lot of opportunities to like chat, have breakfast, have lunch, have dinner, hang out. And the people who you're living with are very different from you. But because you live together, you get to know each other, get to know their likes, dislikes, their personalities, their interests, their lifestyles. Yeah, and so I realized that after I moved back from hall, I didn't know anyone who lived around me, which was a very stark contrast from the experience where I walked down the corridor, hi, like I know the people who live around me. Yeah, and so I realized that it's not that young people don't want to get to know their neighbors, it's just that there's no opportunity for us to get to know the people around us.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like if your HDB area, right, or your neighborhood estate, no events for young people.
I actually don't know my neighbors.
Yeah, most people don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wait, but your neighbors are...
you
That
should
doesn't
get to know
change
your neighbors
anything.
because they are rich.
They're all... No, it's not true.
But
Move on.
But it's just the idea that like as you grow older, you lose friendships when you transition to life stages.
True,
Like
correct.
you change job, you graduate, you move to a new country, move to a new neighborhood,
Right.
and you lose friends.
So what was the big idea for you then?
Creating spaces for people to come and just make friends.
A zone for friends.
That's right, friend zone.
I'm very familiar with the friend zone.
How do y'all start talking about like hot button issues or like getting into like how to talk about these things?
We don't set the context for them. As opposed to we create the space for people to come and just have conversation with one another and be curious about each other's lives. It's really just the idea that when you meet someone new, how do you have a meaningful conversation that isn't the standard like, oh, what do you do for work?
Right.
Oh, it's like very Chinese New Year conversation.
That's my go-to one.
Like, what do you do for work?
No, what do you recommend then? What's the like...
Like, find out more exciting things about the personal life. Like
Such as?
what are you excited about right now?
Wait, writing down. Sorry. It's really good. Do you have a book?
But I guess the idea is that people are more than just their jobs, right?
Yeah.
You know, and your job doesn't define you. And like you may be doing this role, but you have like passion projects on the side, and there's so much more interesting thing about the person than just that day job.
Correct. I also believe in that.
I mean, it works as a good opener, but then the conversation might remain shallow, right? So each of these sessions is like 10 people coming together to...
It's not 10, it's like 30 to 40 people.
32.
And we're usually oversubscribed.
Yeah.
Nice.
So how many people are in one group?
4
4 people.
4, 5.
Wow, intense, yeah. Oh, that's like that lah.
Yeah, kind of like this is a friend zone session.
So
But
this is a friend zone session.
actually, you're friend zoning me because I don't know y'all.
My friends on jump also.
Oh, she's very proud. I think that's like a chip on her shoulder.
Yeah, but basically it's just like people hanging out on tables.
Right.
We have conversation cards. And the conversation cards have instructions.
Do you sell these cards?
No, not yet. Maybe one day soon.
Ah, what a great IP.
Actually, she realized we are not really strangers.
Yeah.
They copied us.
Oh. Definitely making the cut.
So have you noticed like in any of these sessions, right? Like what do people generally find more difficult to talk about?
Conversations at the sessions aren't very difficult because people come in the headspace to want to talk.
Right.
Yeah. So I think sometimes, as in having conversations, is really about setting the right context or the safety for people to be honest and open.
So today, we'll be using some of the more hot button issues in Singapore, like to talk
To learn
about.
how to talk without offending people now.
Yeah. So if you are about to be offended, calm down. It's just
You triggered them already.
just a conversation. Just a conversation,
If
guys.
what Grace say offends you, you need to check yourself.
So this episode we are.
Yeah.
We've indemnified ourselves.
While we're on the topic of talking about things, let's talk about whether you have liked, shared, and subscribed. Because if you haven't, this is your reminder for you to do so. Thank you very much for your support. Back to the episode. So Friendzone has like kindly shared with us like a list of things which is basically a dummy's guide to how to have a conversation. And I'm just gonna run through that list, right? And
Oh, very nice.
let's see how it goes. The question is, right, are we unable to have conversations now because of like woke and cancel culture? Like online, right, firstly, everyone thinks that it's about winning. Nobody cares about explaining your side to the other party if the other party is not on your side. You know what I mean?
Guilty.
Oh, why are you guilty?
Just too competitive. Just want to win online debates. We move along.
People keep thinking that when I'm having a conversation, right, the aim of it is to convert your views. Right? So if I'm talking about like abortion, the end of it is to make sure you're on the same side as me and not just to understand your side, because that's not enough. Yeah. And people are more like focused about winning. Do you have like personal experiences with that?
I have a thought on that. I feel like nobody really goes on the internet trying to piss everybody off and want to get all raged up and angry. Because I feel like even in those people that comment those really hateful and angry comments, right, they themselves also very triggered. And nobody gets up in the morning and be like, I'm a trigger myself today. So I think it's a lot on the first comment, or when you want to correct people or you want to teach people something, right? A lot of times you comment in a way such that that person, right, have no choice, right, but to F you back. You know? It's like can you even read low? It's like, then you know, I don't want, if I cannot reply, if I don't reply you means I cannot read. If I reply you means I need to cut you. So it's like you put me in such a spot, you know, but it's supposed to, hey, I think you missed out that part, right? It's like, hey, you're right, I missed out that part. Like I didn't read that part of that piece of news that triggered me. So I feel like we can address the first few response. You know, the first few times where I want to say, oh, I disagree with you because, or I think you're wrong because, or in my experience is different because.
Yeah, I think it's a negative spiral sometimes also. Yeah, and if you don't respond constructively or you don't think about your choice of words, then it's very easy to be offended.
I've actually heard someone say that like personal experience trumps everything.
It's like them experiencing versus the actual facts and figures.
Yeah.
Like trumps their argument lah. So like someone can say like, oh, actually unemployment at its lowest rate is 10%, but then someone says, my whole family is unemployed. You know?
You are the 10%.
Yeah. Actually, it's true lah. Like unemployment is a weird thing.
Hey, why are you laughing?
The statistic is just down to 1.9%, but if you cannot find a job, it just doesn't make sense to me. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean only 1.9% of the country cannot find a job? Then it's me and my friend.
But I think like going back to your point about winning and like not understanding the other person, right? I think a very like a personal experience that I remember experiencing was that I had a group of friends and some of them belonged to the minority groups, right? And then one of our other friends wrote something on Facebook.
See, you can't even say that properly.
Right?
Yeah. I got Malay friends, Chinese friends.
Yeah, okay.
Friends, all that is Malay. Can't say that anymore.
I have a couple of Indian friends, and then another Indian friend wrote something on Facebook. I had a Chinese friend, and he's like quite activist kind of like level, right? So he was like, dude, that's very racist and offensive. And then like towards the Indian like race lah. So my two other friends saw that and went, no dude, like it's not racist to us.
Wait,
like,
you can't be racist towards your own race?
No, as in whatever that guy said, I can't remember what it was.
They don't consider it to be...
We don't consider it to be racist lah. And then the Chinese guy just kept going on about how this is actually really racist towards like Indians. And instead of saying, okay, why don't you think so? Or like, this is why I think so. Can you explain to me why you don't think so? So I can like learn. He just kept on saying like, no, if you call out certain races or something like that, then it's racist. And it was just such a non-argument at the end of the day. He just wanted to call out racism and then be done with it just to win the argument.
Right. But on that note, right, I also do kind of think that it's interesting that it's like the Chinese guy that is calling out. It's kind of like the flip side of what things usually are. Majority
virtue
privilege.
signaling.
I also wonder, right, like, I mean, clearly here we're all Chinese people, right? So then like, is it okay?
Did you check?
So Grace, are you Chinese?
She don't know what is ketchup in Chinese. So.
There are 3 people here that don't know what ketchup is in Chinese.
I'm actually half Chinese.
Yeah, I know.
Half Chinese,
half Filipina.
Oh.
Yeah, so my mom's Filipina and my dad is Singaporean Chinese.
So for minimally half Chinese people, like, is it okay for us to talk about race without the presence of a minority member?
Oh, it comes out on the comment section a lot, huh?
Yeah.
Do you have to be part of that community to actually talk about the community? I actually saw this TikTok, right, where this guy basically has been going around to
Are you part of the TikTok
exports.
community though?
I'm not. But I'm going to talk about them anyway, and this proves my point, right? So like, there's this guy who just goes around and talks to different like so-called experts, so like very woke people, and ask them, what does it mean to be a woman? And so he asked a lot of different people, right? And then there's this one guy who is super, super woke, and he just says, I can't answer that, you have to ask a woman. I said, no, I'm just asking, what is a woman? Like, what makes a woman? He said, I cannot answer that, ask a woman. Even better, ask a trans woman. Like, ask a woman. And then this guy is like, okay, what's a cat? And they say, oh, a cat's it's an animal, a feline animal with whiskers. Are you a cat? And then the guy just starts walking away and says, I've made a grave mistake.
That's a really good example.
So have there been like heated conversations that have happened?
Like friend zone sessions.
Yeah.
I don't know, not that I'm aware of at least. Yeah.
Why you've had very heated
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, coming back to it, right? I think our sessions are really just about creating the space for people to get to know one another on a personal level. Yeah, and I think the headspace is really, I'm here to learn about you and your lifestyle and your thoughts and your perspectives on things.
Anyway, if we go back to being unable to talk about things, I think like we've kind of touched on a few of the pointers, which is like people don't really dare to ask questions nowadays because they feel like, I'm not sure whether it's about like ignorance, like the people are afraid to show that they're ignorant about a certain thing and being called out for it. Or like secondly, it's just difficult to be asking such questions to who you're asking it to. Like if say for example, in your example, right, if I want to ask a trans woman certain questions, I don't know what would offend them. So then how do I navigate that?
I think people are just scared. Like to engage, right? And maybe the opening question is to state that you're asking because you're curious or you're asking because you don't know. You genuinely want to find out more. I think sometimes if you come to someone and you ask something very directly and it may come across very rude. Yeah. So even just an attitude of curiosity, like, hey, actually I've been thinking about this thing. Can I get your thoughts on this?
Yeah, set the context early.
I feel like the frustration today, right, that maybe like people in the past didn't experience is that we have so much access to information. And so that difference comes when like there are certain things that I can ask, but obviously you go and Google first, right? Because ignorance shouldn't be an excuse for why you offend somebody, right? With just a straight up question, right?
But I also cannot be expected to know everything about every culture. For example.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then there's this strange layer of expectation on everyone now that why didn't you Google this first? But at the same time, I'm also thinking like, I have to Google everything that I'm thinking about or curious about, man. That's damn exhausting, ma. So then it comes to this point where I like, when is it my fault that it's ignorance? And then when is it like, okay for me to just ask and not know but then learn?
I mean, I think it's good that you're even having this thinking. Because honestly, it's also...
Guys, I think
Contrary to popular belief, thinking does take place.
Because a conversation is two parties, right? There's the person asking and there's the person receiving, right? So it's also like on your end when someone asks you a question, like how do you
respond
not be triggered
kindly,
by the question that is coming your way now? Right? Like you'll say at the start, as in if you hear something and then you get triggered, check yourself also. What?
Yeah, I think the other thing also is laziness lah. I feel like there's just so many things to take note of now, right? That it becomes so like difficult to just go, oh, I need to update myself with all of this, that I just rather be ignorant. At least for certain groups of people, I feel.
I think like a question that I've had is always that like whose responsibility is it to educate or to like start conversations to educate people? You know what I mean? Like is it the person who's disadvantaged who feels like I need to be understood or y'all just don't get me, right? Is it up to me or is it up to people who have the majority in certain situations, right? To say, okay, like I'm checking myself, right? I know that I'm in this better position.
Like gender equality must be initiated by men, not women.
Yeah. Or like, is it like the government? So I actually like read this like CNN article, right? They was talking about how people, I think like more than half of respondents felt that like publicly talking about race will cause unnecessary tension. And so they actually wanted politicians to be the one to start these conversations instead. I have the stat here, right? 88% of respondents say it's important for political leaders to talk openly about racism because if they take the lead, it will avert potential tension. Yeah, so then my question is like, whose responsibility is it to start these conversations? Is it the government or is it the minority or the majority? What do you think?
It's everyone's responsibility.
Cop out.
It's true, right? I mean, yeah, it's hard lah. Everyone, yeah.
I feel like if you need to affect change, it has to come from the majority, but it can only start if the...
She's stressed.
So no one knows.
Not possible. It just shows it's not possible.
I consider myself somewhat liberal, a liberal centrist, right? But I am quite progressive. But because there is such a far left like group, right, that is even way more woke and liberal to me, and
even way more, yes.
That makes me feel more right than I am. You know what?
Wow, too much adjectives, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Actually.
No, he feels like he is here, but then because there are people that are here,
correct.
they are so
Yeah,
far that
correct.
it makes him feel like here.
Hey, she gets you, man.
Yeah, I was using that, but with words, left and right.
Wow,
but yeah,
I'm
no,
great.
thanks.
I can be the translator and I want to talk.
Thanks.
But honestly, that's what we need, right? Like more people to help translate each other.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Denise.
Well,
But
ultimate job.
I don't know. I think to the point of who should start certain conversations, right? It's everybody has a select few problems that you can choose to deal with or better or whatever in your life, right? You just choose those few that you want to deal with. You cannot solve all problems anyway. You cannot be invested in all problems. How far can you really get, right?
Yeah.
So just choose those few and then just deal with those.
I also feel like there's a huge impasse. Like if we look at society as a whole.
Wait, what pass?
Impasse.
Is it something like that?
Like you just let me finish, then you will make sense.
Oh, then I'll understand, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's society as a whole. There is, let's say we're talking about minority issues, right? Then there's the minority, there's the majority. It's important for the minority person to speak up for their fellow minority, especially for their children, to not want to deal with something, right? Then and if you do that, then you're doing good for your descendants and for your community. However, you are also the complaining person from the minority group, right? And then there is the majority that if they say something, there's like hey, they're not offended, why you want to say something? Yet they are the only ones that can
affect change.
Change in that sense. Yeah. And then whenever they do say something, there are also people from the minority community, right? They will be like, okay lah bro, relax lah, we're not that offended. You know, which the rest of society would be like, oh my god, can more people be like him? Which is more tolerant. Then at the end the conversation also doesn't move forward.
Yeah.
Because we prefer everybody to be like him, tolerant.
Okay, but either way,
you get it, impasse. Yeah.
Either way,
okay. Got it.
Right.
Oh, she helped you.
Yes. No, but the conclusion is that yes, you do need the majority to speak up to affect change. But in order for the majority to know that there's a problem in the first place, the minority needs to start that conversation.
Which is why if the government does it, then it kind of takes away that responsibility, because I'm like now organizing a session where everyone can come together to talk without this.
Yeah, but the problem is that if it sounds too forced, then people don't care about it also.
True.
But is that not what the government is for? Like we elect this group of people to help us to have these
Address certain issues.
Yeah. So then they represent really lah.
Yeah, but government can't solve all problems, right? Which is also why there's different groups of people who are speaking up about the things that they care about. I mean, that's why I said earlier, it's really everyone. Everyone does play a different contribution to the larger issue.
Say we don't like her answer, then we talk one round, in the end we end up at her answer.
But it's great that we've learned through conversation.
Something else that like I think makes it difficult is that people don't really take time to process dialogue. Like it feels like the moment someone says something that differs from mine, right, I feel like I need to get my opinion in.
Yeah.
Right? Or like people just they don't continue conversations, which we see a lot on social media. Right? Like this is the trending news. People talk about it in their own circle of friends also. And then after that, when the news dies down, then the conversation just dies down also.
Like the war in Ukraine.
Isn't that the problem in itself? The fact that these conversations, is anything really supposed to come out of it if it's happening on like social media? Like is there a proper place and context to have the real conversations that can actually lead to something?
But
you know
way better to raise awareness than on social media.
Then in a comment section on a video or on a TikTok clip, no.
Yeah, but before social media though, was it just less of these things being known to people?
It is what.
Yeah.
See, last time nobody got depression.
Yeah.
Last time nobody. Because it was just not talked about.
Correct. So,
No, I think generating awareness to make it become a point of focus, a topic of focus is can.
Yeah.
But then to actually have the conversation that leads to change or a real dialogue and discussion, that doesn't continue there.
Yeah, people seem to be very passionate about a certain cause until the next cause comes along. Then actually, were you that passionate though? You know what I mean? It feels like entertainment. It feels like fishing.
I think it's kind of the starting point, right? Like the very fact that we are here having a conversation about how to have a conversation is the starting point for getting people to think about
the ending
how they
point,
have conversations.
After this video, then they're just okay, I'm done.
I realize cannot be done.
No, because conversations are just a part of life, right? Like no interaction with relationships or anyone occurs outside of communication with another person. Right? Conversation is a form of communication. Right? And conversation, the context is a two-way or group human social interaction. Whereas like maybe a podcast like this, we're talking to each other, but the listeners, it's one way to them. What? The only way they can respond back is the comments.
no, you know what's funny though is that when you're actually having a face-to-face conversation, you actually have less preparation time. So by right, in theory, if you are conversing online or having discourse online, everyone's supposed to be actually a little bit smarter.
Wait, sometimes right, I am what's that? How to cook like live research. Like they say something that I don't want to sound ignorant about it.
Yeah.
No, the problem is that
that's the mindset to win.
yeah, you see?
No choice. You have to do that because
I'm a winner.
No, they are leaving you with the option of you are an idiot
No, it's not really the mindset to win, right? But it's just the mindset to understand a bit more. Like, for example, if you're engaging in a conversation about something I completely don't understand, right? Then rather than to interrupt your very passionate conversation, I better like, oh yeah, what does impassive mean?
Which is fine. No, but I think at the end of the day, it's really just ego, right? Everyone just has an ego that it might get bruised because they might lose a conversation or like actually realize, oh, I was wrong all along and then I'm so glad that you taught me. And if everyone just let their ego down, we can actually have better conversations online. I remember being in a car once and then I only knew one person, the driver. The 3 other friends behind, right, I didn't know at all. And they were talking about something which was clearly wrong, factually and also, in my opinion, opinionatedly wrong. And then they were just kept going on for like half an hour and I just closed my eyes. And then the driver friend knew also that, disagreeing. And then I just went, like I just blurted out one sentence on why they were wrong, right? And then the whole car was just damn silent, it was awkward. And I was just like, damn happy I was right.
That's about winning.
It's about winning.
Check yourself.
Ego. The alternative was that I would have just kept quiet throughout the entire car ride and then just ignore them.
A stroke.
Probably, or just
Right.
like be like, yo, they want to think that
isolate.
way. They just think that way, lor. Then I'll just think my way and then don't engage at the end of the day.
But then if it's like that, then we'll never reach
Did
like
you
a
respond to
middle
you
ground.
afterwards?
Yeah. So what would have been the best way to have handled that situation? Was it to be like, hi, sorry, you guys don't know me, but
You could have done that.
I think that you guys should consider this.
Could have.
What would you do? Like for example, right? So you let's say you're taking Grab, and then it's close to election period, and then the driver is just very upset at the government on the day that don't want to return our CPF. You as an educated young person, you kind of understand the importance of CPF. Would you just be like, yeah,
Just implanted in.
or you would try and explain to him?
Plot twist, you don't like CPF.
I mean, honest, I think it really depends on how tired I am and how much I care. Yeah. Like you said, right? You can't care about every issue and it's impossible to, but even maybe hearing his point of view is, oh, okay, that's another point of view that I never really considered before.
So then like, I'm kind of wondering, how can I be honest, right? Like I want to have a mic drop moment like Dan kind, right? But then I also don't want to hurt people's feelings. So like, but how do I be tactful also?
Yeah. I mean, I guess in conversation, remember that there's two parties in the conversation, right? So the speaker and the recipient. I think it also depends on like which position you're in a conversation, right? So for example, in the story he was sharing earlier, like when you had a point to make to the other people in the car, you are kind of the respondent now to what everyone else is saying. And then you just sit there, one sentence, mic drop moment, and then silence, right? I think it was good that you shared your point of view, but also what could you have done to engage them to respond to what you said, right? Because you just said they're like, oh, this is a thing, and then they're like stunned, then silence, then like you were saying, right, there was no more conversation for the next 30 minutes right back. Yeah, then it became very awkward for the whole car, But I mean, a suggestion could have been to ask them like, what do you think about what I just said? Yeah. Like, what are your thoughts on my point of
I think I
view?
want to slap your face. You just ruined the entire road trip. Who is this guy even?
Yeah.
Or no, like another way that I would have approached it would be like, I would have just searched it on my phone just to make sure that I'm correct and be like, hey, this just happened to appear on my phone. Turns out this is the actor. Okay, that doesn't really engage. So it's just to say, hey, actually, interesting that you guys brought that up. However, did you consider that this may be the truth? No, that there's this other like point, I guess.
I think tone is another thing, right? Like the tone that you share something with someone on, because the tone also can trigger, right?
I completely agree.
It's only the tone that triggers though, I think.
I have a tone problem.
No lah, you don't lah. No, you really don't.
Hey, you gotta watch your tone.
Actually,
Sorry.
it does make a lot of sense because like online, when people, so I saw this like, I don't know, it's a social experiment or what lah, that they got like 2 different people to read the same set of text messages and then they read it like completely
Oh my
differently.
god,
Yes.
like that.
No, I think that's the biggest issue when it comes to online discourse, because you don't actually read in the tone that the sender actually sent it in. So you think that they're being damn rude or like being direct, but they're actually going like, hey, actually, I just want to say this.
Yeah,
Instead
it's happening a lot now when you see in the comment section, right? Where people are not as efficient as they used to be in the comment section, which is as little words as possible, which can be very irritating and it sounds very rude, right?
Lazy
But
typers,
they're like, I might not be the expert, but I heard that blah blah blah. Can someone tell me if this is real or this is true? And I really appreciate that, and I feel like as internet people, right, we can make our own social cues for whether are we just angry, we just want to say something, but y'all don't reply me, don't worry about it. Or I want to say something and I want y'all to have a conversation with me. Then you bake in the nuance. You bake in the conversational nuances. And then if you see something that looks like a trigger bait, then
Yeah. I mean, just on the topic of like comments, right? It's also, I think, whose platform the conversation is happening on. So for example, if it's your own comment section, right? To a certain extent, you're the moderators to be the one who can mediate, right? If people are getting out of hand. Yeah. Because unless some other person comes in to just be like, hey, guys, calm down. Like, let's talk about this, right? Yeah.
That's so rare though that someone will comment like as like a...
Which is why it needs to start. I think the other thing, the greatest invention, clearly not the greatest invention, but an amazing invention, right, was the sarcastic sign. So it's the /s. And then, so like now,
No way!
it's all over Reddit. So like whenever people comment, right, and then it's clearly something that you might trigger people, and then after that they'll put the /s, and then it goes, you're just being sarcastic, and then that was so good. You had me at the first part, that kind of thing. And then it's actually just
I had
person's
no
being
idea.
sarcastic.
I just thought it was a
great.
typo.
Yeah, it really saves a lot of.
I thought it's like a script problem. Like /b, you want to bold it. Yeah.
HTML.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So like so many times, like someone's just trying to be sarcastic, and then they get into a heated argument. Then the OP comes back and says, "Guys, I was just being. It's a joke. I thought it was so obvious. So now it's just /s. Solves all problems."
Sometimes I feel like if I don't correct that person, is that a winning mentality? But okay, anyway, if I don't share my opinions with that person, then
They're
that
just a
person
sheep.
will just go on living their life thinking like this. Then if everybody thinks like that, right, this person will just never change their mind, ma. Then
Maybe
how?
the question to ask, right, is why do you think this way? And just keep asking whys. Because there's so often we just want to rebut or argue. But instead of going, why do you think that way? If someone says something that you disagree with, and just go down to the root of it, and they might actually just answer their own question and go, actually I don't know. Or you actually understand that maybe there's a point of view that you haven't considered.
Irritating back the...
Yeah.
That's good.
Why? And then they keep asking,
Why?
But a lot of the times, right, they end up going in circles. So they will either start with point A, then you will why until point B, then why B? Because A.
Yeah.
And then they kind of stuck
And then
in
the
that loop
volume
already.
just goes up. The volume goes up. The content remains.
yeah, it's like that one lah. It's the like
You
final-
don't know lah. You don't know lah, boy.
Boy.
Circular definition.
I guess it's also hard if the person that you're talking to isn't receptive of what you have to say.
Right.
Like I said, conversation.
Which is why I think is the problem in the internet, you see. I mean, we're having this conversation, how do we converse better, especially on the internet, because I feel like that's becoming a rising concern. But we cannot fix that people on the internet, when they converse, are not ready to learn or understand your viewpoint.
Or can we?
I don't think so. like you say, in real life, she already, I mean, rightly so, you pointed out that people are just not having a conversation with intentions to see another viewpoint. They're having a conversation to state that my viewpoint is king and I'm right and all of you all should listen to my viewpoint. And this is happening all over the internet, right? And these people exist in real life, and so you cannot eliminate them from the internet. My point is that it's
rampant.
These people are rampant in real life, and then they will become more rampant on the internet. And these people are not. They don't want to have a conversation. They just want to state their viewpoint. And what honestly can we do?
Honestly, I was the perpetrator. Sorry, that's more than two. I was the attack of that situation once. So like I came across this one thing. It's the Roe v. Wade abortion thing, basically.
Yeah.
And then one of the people that I follow that I really enjoyed his content, he suddenly posted something that triggered me. I got copy paste the same comment that I replied to everybody who is agreeing with him, right? But there's something factually wrong there that I go and reply the same thing to everyone. Just because I was like very upset about it. I just
Oh my
wanted
god,
to
this
like,
was so recent.
yeah,
Like
I just wanted to throw my viewpoint out there. And then then almost every single one of them like reply me back. They reply back but kind of got reason, so then I just keep quiet.
But do you feel like you learned anything from that, or you just felt like you lost the conversation?
Can you just tell us what happened?
Yeah,
It's on the internet anyway, so it can't be that private.
we'll find it.
No, I comment with my private account. So
So it's also that fear of like putting your real self out there that I am the one stating this thing.
no, cause now we got the show that I scared that like I say anything that people recognize me that I damn paiseh,
Nice.
But nice lah. Sometimes there are a lot of nice conversations that can appear online. So like they get
Our
support.
comment sections. I love our comment section.
Coming back to earlier the question, right, about how do you engage in conversations better? I mean, from the person who is sharing your point of view, it's also about how do you share in a manner that, I guess, communicates your thoughts and your feelings such that you can engage responses. Yeah, because sometimes you want to say something, but also I think it's helpful to know how the other person received what you said. I mean, this is just general communication, right? Even if your partner, with your friends, like conflict issues they're so prevalent in all sorts of relationships, and that doesn't make it any different for like hot button topics or any other issues. Yeah, so it's like, I mean, you have conversations with your partner, and then your partner completely misinterprets what you say because you say in a certain way. Right? So in the same way, it's also just like when engaging with someone or sharing a point of view, it's also helpful to ask them like, oh, what do you take away from what I shared? Or what are your thoughts about what I shared? How do you feel about what I shared with you? Yeah.
What I've seen online is something that really works whenever, like, say for example, okay, this is a really like trivial topic, but say for example we're in a Liverpool fans group Reddit and a Manchester United fan comes in really wanting to understand something. They always start off with, Manchester United fan here, I come in peace. And then they ask the question, it completely sets the context, Just I come in peace, right? And you go, okay, fine, ask your question.
Yeah, so Manchester United fan here, I come in peace, why you all lose 4-0?
I mean, because United started a full-fledged, your strongest team, and we started a bunch of kids.
But you all ended with your full-fledged team
and we're yeah, well done lah. That was the best score you had.
Good chat then, good chat.
See, we understand each other now.
You can't be missed. It's so important for us to get this right, guys.
Why?
If we don't, everyone's gonna retreat back into their circles in which they can have their own little safe conversations where most of the time people agree with them, and you don't ever learn someone else's opposing point of view.
Yeah.
And I think that's already happening, whereby people go to pro-government, anti-government, pro-left, pro-right to engage in their own little conversations in which everybody will just agree with them, and then it will escalate. Like how the left movement is escalating to until we don't know how to talk anymore.
Yeah, confirmation bias.
Yeah,
echo chambers.
And it's really important that we find out the code of communication, especially on the internet, because it's developing. And if no one does anything, the code will develop into like that. This will be the norm. Yeah, so I think it is important that we let's go to the comment section, right, guys, and ask the weirdest question you always wanted to know from another side, from another perspective and another point of view from you.
I love this.
And see how...
Okay, I would like your comment.
Don't caveat until like shit, okay? Be honest, and then just like ask your question.
It's a safe space.
Yeah.
Only this episode. Comment section.
And then we will answer. Yeah, we will really answer.
Wait, who is like we?
We. Yeah. Or other people might answer also.
We'll answer each other. We'll weigh in also.
This will be the most commented video ever.
Or nobody there to ask.
It's a trap.
Do youths engage in these conversations enough, and why is it important that they do?
Oh, I cannot speak for youths.
Hey, we're
What's the
still
age range of the people
NYC
that-
until 35.
18 to 35.
NYC Rangers youth all the way to 35. So I got a few more years of youthfulness left in me.
Your forehead doesn't say so, but yeah. Ooh, sorry, I thought we were making fun of each other. Mine also, I don't feel old. Why? You didn't take that the way I thought you would. Yeah.
You never slash S at the back.
My forehead don't have.
Yeah, that's
lines.
true.
Yeah.
Mine
His
is
forehead okay, what?
Yeah, I wanted to say
his-
eye wrinkles, but
Because
then I
he's
thought that would be
very-
more sensitive.
It's because he has a receding hairline. So
Hey! See, I took that really well.
yeah.
There you go.
Then I cannot sleep at night. I'm going to posit a theory. I think at the end of the day, the policy makers of today, right, were once the youths of yesterday. Obviously, that's how time works. But
That's where you read this quote from.
yeah, thanks. No, but the policy makers of today, who to some people may seem conservative, right, were liberals when they were younger.
Yeah.
Right? They were the progressives when
Like
they were
Dr.
younger.
Vivian.
And now they've lived to the point where they can finally set the world that they want it to be. But the youth now think that it's not progressive enough. So these guys, the youth of today, are going to be the policy makers of tomorrow. So they need to be able to come to some level of like conversation so that they know what these issues are and they don't end up being old enough to become policy makers that are closed off to like certain issues.
Right.
And the youth of today are so well connected and so well resourced, which is something that the youth of yesterday did not have.
But I do think, like, interestingly, I feel like youths nowadays do understand their impact a lot more. Like when you see on TikTok, they got those like Gen Z movements, right? Like for example, how they boycott, they go and buy the Trump's speech tickets and after they all never go to make a statement, right? So I think they have realized their power in a sense, or at least the Gen Zs lah, like how they can impact different things. And on a more personal level also, it does seem like they are more woke, right? Like they have a better understanding on different things. So I do think that like things are shifting lor.
Is that good though? I don't know.
To be more understanding.
Yeah, I feel like you don't like him, so you will deny other people, like I'm talking about Donald Trump, like in that specific example. So you will deny other people a chance to listen to him. Then you must be cocksure you are right. And I think that is the problem. You have decided for someone else entirely that person don't get to listen to this rally in person. And I feel like that then is the problem.
So maybe youths don't know how to responsibly use this power yet.
Yeah, and it's becoming, everything becomes a movement.
Right.
As opposed to just a conversation. Like, why can't we have a conversation? Why must it be a demonstration or a movement? And it could be the argument is that in conversations, the needle doesn't move. You gotta do something to get the politicians' attention. Yeah, and I mean, that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, no, I feel like young youths who are liberal are like that, but I feel like old conservatives are also like that. And so actually they have a common ground. They both just like to deny the other from access to certain things that they feel is wrong.
And they all like nasi lemak.
Once again, thank you to our partners for today's episode, the National Youth Council. We hope that whatever we've shared today will help steer you in the right direction the next time you want to have such conversations with your friends. And if you're interested in learning more, we'll be including the link to an article in the description down below, so do check that out. And thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. See you in the next episode.
I'd like to thank Grace for joining us as well.
I was about to say that.
And also do the comment thing that Don mentioned.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. How come they never like, share, and subscribe?
We're not even charging money. It helps us. You understand? It helps us as a business to do it for free.
People don't even like us for free.